Hi, everybody. This is Arthur Owen Wills, and I'll be doing a reading of episode 2 of the Mayday series. Imani sat in silence within the vehicle for what felt like forever. She had gone over her decisions repeatedly and had now snapped out of it to realize the two guardswomen had not gotten in behind her. They said, "Let's go," and that I'll be shown around. And now they're just standing there. This reminds me of my parents' bullshit. The good old hurry up and wait of the military, Imani thought, looking out of the vehicle, noticing that it did not seem to have a door. Whatever, Imani whispered, now gazing around, feeling somewhat soothed by the warm wooden brown color that encompassed the inside of the vehicle from the chairs to the floor and bulkheads. I feel like I'm sitting inside of a fucking tree, though. And now I'm talking to myself, she said, feeling self conscious as she looked around further, noticing that the front and back of the vehicle was curved in a fashion that reminded her of the inside of a submarine, minus the controls as everything was bare. Feeling impatient again, Imani turned her body in the seat to stare at the woman, and as she did, she noticed that the chair had somehow supported her movement, and that it did not leave her feeling twisted in the position she was in. Further still, Imani noticed that the seat felt both firm and yet extremely soft, as if it were perfectly designed for her. Why is everything so strange, yet feels inherently right? A chair should be this comfortable. And this light is perfect for my eyes, not too bright, not too dark. But where is it coming from? Imani thought, now realizing that the light in the vehicle and within the small chamber she had descended into was as it had been in the cargo container, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, with no sign of any actual light source whatsoever. Watching the woman, Imani could see them glance at her, then in the direction she had descended from, then arbitrarily at the walls of the chamber, which seemed to be made of smooth, red-brown stone or clay. Something flashed on the walls in front of both guardswomen. Then Imani saw baby blue text in Hebrew, along with another form of symbol seemingly infused within the Hebrew, which was scrolling from left to right before disappearing. Imani would see the women shaking their heads ever so slightly as if annoyed or disappointed, while at other times bobbing their head in affirmation. Fucking annoying waiting here. I'm so anxious, she thought, letting out a sigh that must have caught the Israeli guardswoman's attention as she looked up and locked eyes with her. Give us a moment. We know you're impatient to dig yourself in too deep. All of you are. While you're sitting here, be productive. Take this time to think about everything you've seen and are seeing right now. Your leads are going to ask this of you a lot when you get down there. So might as well start sharpening your observation skills. There's a lot going on around here, and a lot of it there are still no answers for. Which is why you're here in the first place, Imani heard the Israeli guardswoman say. I'm sick of your bitchy attitude. Stop forcing your negative mindset on me. All of you with your snips. It's getting old real fast, Imani said right after the woman finished speaking, in her most calm, put together voice. For in truth, she actually was. Add our negativity to your observations. Think about why we're like this, she heard the Israeli woman reply, before looking towards the Air Force woman, who Imani could see was nodding her head as if she were agreeing with her comrade, but also seeming like she was listening to something else and agreeing to it. She's right. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? I noticed that they keep looking at where I came from. I'm sure they have earbuds in. I wonder if she's nodding her head because she's receiving instructions that someone else is coming. And what were they reading on the walls? How is everything moving? Like it's made of? No way. No way. Could these be nanoparticles? Imani thought, bobbing her head to acknowledge the Israeli guardswoman as she genuinely began to categorize her observations. As Imani thought about what she saw, she had a momentary flashback that made her hop out of her seat and then the vehicle to look under the pair of seats that had faced each other. Huh? I was right. I did see this. Or not see it, she whispered, really staring underneath the seats, seeing nothing supporting them. Magnetic? Seriously? It's like stepping into a new world, she said to herself, grabbing the armrest of the chair, giving it a firm push. When the pair of seats didn't budge, she moved her attention to the floor and the bulkhead, looking for seams, and saw nothing but a smooth brown surface that felt slightly warm, plasticky, and had a bit of resistance to it. Turning around, she could see the two guardswomen had moved closer together, almost with their backs touching. In front of them, on the walls, baby blue text in Hebrew and the other symbols would flash across the walls, and she could see the woman fixate on it and look visibly relieved whenever the text would stop flashing. At the corner of her peripheral vision, she saw an all-black circular disc descending. Looking up, she saw a slender figure in a carpet-like body armor that seemed to pick up the coloring of the wall, but not to the point where the person would be invisible. When the disc touched the ground, the figure stepped off and swayed like they were drunk. Looking closer, Imani could see melted portions along with burn marks all up and down the body armor, especially on the arms, shoulders, and forehead of the helmet, of which the visor was cracked and somewhat melted but otherwise intact. Ladies, I'm ready when you are, Imani heard a familiar voice say, instantly knowing it was the Filipino Air Force guard she had met in the cargo container. What the fuck happened to her, Imani thought, as the two guardswomen went over to the Filipino guard and began touching around the neck and shoulders of her body armor. Where the woman touched the armor, Imani saw raised seams appear, followed by the woman gently tugging and sliding the pieces down to the Filipino woman's breastplate. Then they pressed again. How? Imani thought, no longer seeing any seams and just slight elevations on the breastplate. Moving her eyes back up from the breastplate, Imani saw bruised, broken, and seared flesh all around the Filipino woman's neck and collarbone. God damn, she whispered, noticing that both the woman's collarbones were caved in as well. As she continued to drink in the damage, the two guardswomen were now pressing the Filipino woman's helmet. Seams appeared like it had on the body armor, and she watched the two women slide chunks to the left and right of the helmet, then press again. And as before, the pieces merged together with the helmet as it did on the body armor. Imani's heart sank seeing the Filipino woman's face, as it was also bruised, broken, and burned like her neck and shoulders. In addition to that, Imani could see that the Filipino woman's eyes were bleeding from their tear ducts. Okay, how are you feeling? Imani heard the Israeli woman ask, watching as she affectionately stroked the Filipino woman's cheek and tapped her chin. Nervous. I'm not ready to go down there, she heard the Filipino woman reply in a voice that bespoke of pain, all while displaying a broken jawed smile that showed teeth that had noticeable hairline cracks in them. Yeah, I understand, Imani heard the Mexican woman reply, stepping back, then one step forward, nodding her head with an encouraging smile as the Filipino woman took a wobbly step forward. Don't you need help? Like them under you? Imani felt herself ask before she could stop herself, as she had gotten frustrated that neither one of the women had taken hold of her. Need help? I'm not sure. I want help, but I don't want to need help. So for now, let me see if I can walk on my own. It's how we do things around here, she heard the Filipino woman reply, taking another wobbly step forward, then another, with the two guardswomen flanking closely by her sides. Nodding her head in understanding, Imani took up a position almost directly behind the Filipino woman, just in the off chance that she'd fall backwards and need to be caught before the other woman could reach out for her. Here, let me move this chair, Imani heard the Israeli woman say, stepping into the vehicle, waving her hand over one of the outmost chairs to Imani's right. After the Israeli woman's gesture, the chair lazily spun, and then the Israeli woman took hold of it and pushed it backwards. You got this, Imani heard the Mexican woman say as the Filipino woman stepped into the vehicle, spun, and flopped into the chair with labored breath. Imani, You can wait here and we can take her down and another crew can pick you up. Or you can, she heard the Mexican woman say as she had knelt down and waved her hand over the floor, which then rose up underneath the Filipino woman's feet. No, I'm fine, she cut in, as something moved in the corner of her eye, which made her turn her head to the right and see a semicircle had formed in front of the vehicle. Is she dying right in front of me? Or is she just really hurt? Imani thought, now seeing a hole form in front of the vehicle, opening in a way that reminded her of how valves moved in a vein. Right after the hole appeared, Imani could smell old blood and something even more putrid. Shaking her head in surprise and confusion, she quickly made her way into the vehicle. The moment she entered, she heard her soft chime and felt a soft brush of air underneath her summer dress and along her back. Turning around, she saw that the opening was shut, with the same brown color material as the rest of the vehicle. Surprise teased at the corner of her mind, but quickly dissipated, as materialization and dematerialization of boundaries had happened a few times already, and she was now more concerned with the life of the woman in front of her. When you breathe, tell me how it feels, Imani asked the Filipino woman. It feels, it feels, it feels like you should mind your business, Imani heard the Filipino woman reply, with a chuckle that led to a cough that sounded really bad to Imani. She also heard the other guardswomen laughing as well, and looked towards them to see them smiling at her and shaking their heads. Sit down, candidate select, Imani heard the Mexican woman say, tipping her chin to the seat behind her. What happened to you? Imani asked, stepping back, then sitting in the chair, mentally noting that she felt the chair adjust to her, making her feel extremely comfortable. When Imani had sat down, the Israeli guard and the Mexican guard sat down as well. In that very same moment, Imani felt G-force pressure slam into her. This doesn't feel normal, Imani thought, recalling the sensations of different amusement park rides, noting that she felt like she was free falling and accelerating in a direction, yet not able to discern if she was moving forwards or backwards. The pressure continued to increase to the point where she thought she'd black out, yet right when the edges of her vision blurred, the pressure eased up. All around the vehicle, Imani saw soft glowing lights, and the bulkhead and floor began to change color. Butterflies rose in her belly instantly the moment the shimmering lights turned to clarity, for the entire vehicle had seemed to go translucent, and she was now seeing that they were plummeting down a winding tube network that reminded her of blood vessels or roots. The pressure eased up again, and Imani used that opportunity to turn her head to the left, and as she did, her chair spun in a direction. And that's when the world she once knew completely evaporated. Is this real? Or is this an image? Imani thought, feeling it hard to breathe from the sheer volume of sensory overload because she knew in her heart of hearts what she was seeing was real. In all directions, there were translucent tube networks with capsules like the one she was in going up and down with occupants. Imani saw some people wearing body armor, like the ones the guards were in, while others were wearing thicker suits that reminded her of hazmat suits. Still others she saw wearing black and red tight uniforms, and still others were simply nude. But it was past the tube networks that was really stealing Imani's breath away, for they were plummeting through a giant chasm, of which was filled with enormous human-like skeletal structures. Human-like because they had obvious differences, such as bone wings spreading out from their backs that looked to be at least a quarter of a mile long in each direction, along with extremely sharp, elongated canine teeth. In various locations around the enormous bones, Imani saw pointed fang-like buildings built in circular networks. As the vehicle continued to plummet, Imani could make out various damage on the skeletal structures. Holy fucking Shit, Imani whispered, seeing enormous weapons such as swords, spears, hammers, and what looked to be guns stuck in or laying on the ground between the bones. The skeletal structures calling her attention the most was a male and female pair that lay right next to each other. The female was holding an oddly shaped, cracked open, gun-like structure in one hand and a wickedly curved, sharp sword with beautiful language-like engravements running the length of it in the other. Inside the cracked, gun-like structure, Imani saw softly glowing red, blue, green, and purple crystals stacked one on top of the other. Definitely bullets, Imani thought, now drinking in more of the male skeletal structure, shaking her head at the violence, as it was holding a large pointed dagger shoved up between the bottom jaw of the females, with its tip reaching into the skull. Where the female skeletal structure held the gun, the male structure had an enormous hole through the front and back of the ribs. The vehicle then entered a tube with a much gentler descent, and Imani was able to drink in further details of the carnage. Candidate select. What do you see? Assess the situation below. In detail. Um, I don't think I want to believe this is real. Is there any chance this is all a projection inside of here? 0% chance this is fake. You're looking through this vehicle like you're looking out of an airplane window, Imani heard the Israeli guard say in a dark tone. You want me to believe this is real? That giant woman with fangs and wings and giant men are giant? I I don't know, Imani replied. The woman with fangs, those would be Liliths. And those males, they would be trash, as they always are and forever will be, she heard the Israeli woman say in a tutoring tone that caught Imani off guard. This is insane. You're saying that Liliths are real, and giant males, most of which looked human, were real. Giant people? This is insane. Sure it is. So humor me and tell me what you think was going on down there, the Israeli guardswoman pressed. It it looks like they were having a gender war and an interspecies war. It's like it's like we're in some kind of sci-fi fantasy TV show, Imani replied, shaking her head in disbelief. You wonder what could have made you avoid your friends and family? Well, here it is, Imani heard the Israeli woman say. Hey, Imani, I heard you were smart, like genius level smart. We were told to give you the scenic route because you know what you saw from the bones and from the layers. Tell us more of what you've observed, Imani heard the Mexican woman ask. Fine. If I'm entertaining this for real, then I see a battle. No, a war. No, at least three different wars, and countless battles fought for each. And I can see time distinctions on the walls, but I can't tell the exact dating. And I can tell this chasm is not natural and was dug over time to study the remains and artifacts. So, yeah, like I was saying before, one of the wars seems gender and species based, like male humans versus Liliths. The other war seems like there were a few male Liliths fighting alongside the female Liliths. And it seems like they were fighting against the giant male humans. And in the third war, it just seems to be chaos, like everyone was fighting each other. Interesting. Zoom in, she heard the Mexican woman reply. How? Imani replied, feeling herself sweating between her arms and crotch as she thought about how casually but suddenly this was becoming her new life. Think it harder, she heard the Mexican woman reply. What? Imani asked, feeling annoyed because she thought the answer was sarcastic. Think it harder. I'm being for real, she heard the Mexican woman answer, this time sounding impatient. Fine, Imani said under her breath, looking down in an area that seemed interesting to her, suddenly seeing the image magnified to ground level, thousands of feet below. Holy shit, I wasn't expecting that, she whispered, now seeing hundreds, if not thousands of normal human-sized skeletons scattered throughout the ground, now feeling like she would soil herself with loose stool as her stomach began to twist in knots. Uh-huh. So, what do you see? She heard the Mexican woman ask knowingly. I see the same three wars. It's just this time the skeletons are our size. Or people a little bit bigger, something in between. What the hell is all of this? All right, now tell me if this is some kind of projection. I really thought I was okay with this all. I really did. But is this some kind of Air Force or Israeli psychological test? Something's wrong. After saying what she thought, Imani looked between the guardswoman, but lost her concentration at the topic because the Filipino woman was turning sweaty and pale. Hey, hey, she's going into shock. Why the hell were we going in this insane speed with her on here in the first place? And what the hell even is this thing? How are we not flying all over the place? For some reason, seeing the smaller skeletons had tipped her over the edge, as it had hit closer to home, as she had been disassociating herself from the situation when it was just giants. It was that and the Filipino guard woman's reaction, because she could tell that although the woman was showing signs of shock from her injuries, that she was also freaking out in surprise, and had recalled when the woman had said something about being nervous to go down there, which then made Imani ask, have you ever seen this before? The Filipino woman locked eyes with her, and Imani saw that she was trembling. Fucking Christ, demons are real. I work for demons. They've been sucking me dry slowly. And now I'm trapped. I hope I die, I hope I die, I hope I die, she heard the Filipino woman say, raising a shaky hand, doing the sign of the cross. The fear was contagious, and Imani began to feel herself going into a panic attack. Yet a deep, dark, calculative part of her mind pushed all of the fear of the unknown away and began to work on everything she had seen and was seeing. Whoever had assessed her was correct. She was a genius, with a perfect photographic memory, along with perfect memory recall and spatial imagery skills. What the Air Force general had said to her about her wanting more from her professors and peers had been one of the main driving factors behind her saying yes when she had been challenged about entering. Only now, seeing what she was seeing and understanding that everything around her was using manipulated nanomaterial, did she feel her mind finally having something deeply useful to work on besides her own dissertation work. I am already swallowed whole, Imani thought, feeling a sad, cold resolve as she disassociated from the Filipino guard woman's reaction and mentally said goodbye to her family and friends. Don't you see? They're demons. They will they will suck us dry. They will keep sucking us dry, she heard the Filipino guardswoman say again, sounding desperate. Imani simply nodded, for she no longer cared, just as long as she learned more about what she was seeing, and she was already planning pre-made recordings for birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, and anything else her family might deem important. She was already swallowed whole. Hello, everybody. This is author Owen Wills, and that concludes episode 2 of the Mayday series. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe below, and please check out my book, ERTA The Complete Series, which is what the Mayday series has stemmed from. Thank you so much again for watching. I'll see you in episode 3.